Good day. Okay, so the purpose of this short video is just to give you a brief overview of the process of participatory action learning and action research. So not going into great detail, but just giving you an overview. Okay, let's look at the model now of PALAR, as we call it, for short. Okay, so this may look quite confusing to you. Action research is usually in cycles, but in PALAR we decided to put it into figure 8 because the relationship component, which is the upper quarter, or not quadrant, the upper bit of the figure 8, and the research component, which is the lower portion, happens simultaneously. So one of my community partners said it's actually like an infinity symbol, because it never stops, it just goes around. So instead of just focusing on the research, what is important in participatory action learning and action research is the relationship component, and that's one of the core principles of PALAR. Um, Members of the core project group, whether you call them an action learning set or a core project group or a community of practice or just a group of people, they don't carry just out the activities of this part once, but it's happening the whole time. Each time they meet, they have to review their vision and their purpose, critically reflecting on their own needs for personal development, how the team is progressing, how the group uh, um, process is going, doing contextual analysis and so on. So that's why the relationship is at the heart of PALAR, and it's so important to keep on going. That's why we can't ignore it and just do the research. If you want to form a good community-based partnership, you really have to spend time building relationship. The bottom component is about the normal research, action research process, which most of you may be familiar with. So we start out by collaborating a collaborative vision, crafting, a collaborative vision. What is it we want to achieve? What will it be like when the thing we want to achieve is there? And it's good to often start off with that, just asking people to write down, to draw a vision, a symbolic version of a vision, and to explain it so that the group gets to know each other and get to know how what each other wants and so on out of this collaboration. And then leave it aside and go on to defining a mutual purpose. Who are we and what do we want to get out of this? Why do we want to do this? Start dialogue around that. And then do an exercise or so which helps people to look at what do I bring to this process. So it could be an affirmative exercise which makes people realize that they have value, and especially community members. What do they bring, and to make them feel that they are valuable members. Also focusing on, well, what do each of us need to learn? Research, academic research is included to make sure that we can reach our vision. And then negotiating the roles and responsibilities, doing a context analysis, community mapping, or something like that, or a SWOT analysis, or a pest analysis. Who or what can help us reach our vision is the most important thing to focus on. And then setting the broad research goals. Okay, what do we want to achieve through this research? And then negotiating an ethical contract, which is very important. Normally the researcher does the ethics in the university. Community people don't know anything about it. But now we're going in and we're actually negotiating an ethical contract, which we'll come to later on. And then relook the vision. Okay, remember those drawings you did at the beginning. Let's take them out again now. Let's look at them. Let's see if our visions changed. Let's try and put them together into one vision. And it's a really good idea to get a logo or some kind of visual image that represents what it is you want to achieve as a team, because that builds a team identity. Okay, and yes, the relationship part of it, you will probably spend time on that depending on who you're working with. If it's a team of professionals who are quite used to doing research and so on, then, that will go quite quickly. But if you're working in the community, it can take a long time to build up people's ability and capacity to actually feel free to disagree, feel free to participate, and to really sort of figure out what it is they want to do and so on. And then the research component of it is where you set your research questions in a collaborative way and determine how to reach it, and possibly then having to develop research skills. If you're working with people who haven't done research before, how do we gather data? How do we analyze data and so on? Developing an action plan. What are we going to do? Who's going to do it? Where, when, how, etc. And then actually gathering the data and analyzing it. And then once you've analyzed it and interpreted it, reflected on it, deciding on how we're going to disseminate this data. And that's important because it can't just be through academic journals. How are we going to disseminate it to the community that is affecting in a relevant way? How the community is going to take charge of that? And then another reflection, not so much on the findings here, but reflecting on the process. What did we each learn and develop? What did we each learn in here? How, in this process, how have we developed? And then what are we going to be doing next? Deciding on the next steps. And knowing that each time you're meeting, that you're still forming the relationship. So going through the research process will mean meeting on a regular basis. And each time you meet, you reflect on how we're doing on some of the items of the relationship part to keep that going. And sometimes you have to slow down again and take a step backwards. Other times things are fine. So that's basically what goes on in a PALAR process. The difference from participatory action research is that there's not an explicit focus on the action learning, which is the work of the upper quadrant there. But working with people in communities who are not used to having their voice heard, who are not used to actually solving their own problems and so on, and find that the action learning focus, it really makes it educative and builds their capacity more than just going in and doing research. Therefore, the research is much more sustainable at the end. So that's a brief overview of PALAR process to get you going.